Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle Me in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. I think this book review ought to be interesting. When I reorganized my videos, I had some holes, leftover series numbers, and so this will be series number 6. So that would have been something that I would have created the old number 6 back around 2013. And I did get this book back then and some other books like it and read them. So it is pertinent to that placement in the series. Like I said before, when I was making videos when I started out, it would be just video 1, video 2, video 3. But then when I got into 100, I realized I had 2 of similar authors that I combined into one series number. I had 3 or 4 numbers for morals and dogma. I had done so many chapters, and I consolidated all that into one number. So this is number 6, interestingly enough. And the title is Remote Viewing. Tim Rifat. And I think it's an important topic because remote viewing, psychic abilities, these technologies have been militarized. Weapons used against we the people. So this is definitely something we should become aware of and learn about without a question. You can see the picture on the bottom here. Rockets, cities in destruction, tanks. But you see what I talk about here. So I'm going to just look at chapter 3 today. I want to make a couple videos. And I'm studying this material seriously for myself. Learning how to enhance my own psychic abilities. I believe it's probably something important to do in these days. With the enemy, people into witchcraft and mysticism and kabbalah and satanic symbolism and rituals, we really need to wrap our head around what the heck are these people doing and what is reality. Do you agree or disagree? Should people just be blind to this stuff? Thinking ignorance is bliss? So there are some other books that I've gone over and made videos on. Number 29. Jim Mars, PSI Spies. You can go watch my previous videos on these topics. And I got a book here by Edgar Cayce on auras. We all have an auric field around us. And see if I can find a picture here. But anyways, the Edgar Cayce book is kind of interesting because if you can see auric fields, it gives you a definition. For example, blue. It tells you what it means when you see a blue auric field around somebody. Red. We all know about the rainbow agenda, the symbol of the rainbow. It apparently is a something out of secret doctrine, biblical information, mysticism, the Kabbalah, and probably it makes sense. It is a set of frequencies in the color spectrum. But what does it mean if you look at somebody with a red auric field? Alright, it says here, red is the first of the primary colors in the ancient symbolism. It represented the body, the earth, and hell. Wow. This comes from Edgar Cayce's material where he was in a trance. All 3 of which meant the same thing in the old mystery religions. The earth was the irrational world into which the soul descended from heaven. I'll have to go over stuff like this. But that's not what this video is about. I can't see auric fields, but I can look at a person and take a pendulum, take a chart like this. I'll learn how to use my intuitive ability, and take a pendulum and ask the pendulum what my auric field color is right now. And it's given me a line almost exactly between the green and the blue. Right here. So that's a kind of a healthy indication. I've looked this stuff up before. But you can tell if people are sick, and just different metaphysical technologies out there we should be aware of. That would be video number 13. I made a video on that. You can go watch the video in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. And I made a video, this is number 13 also, the human aura. So just FYI, I've made a lot of videos on this psychic stuff over the years about how you can see these auric fields and what they mean and the different colors and the different shapes. This is a very famous author, Walter Kilmer. Another video I made, number 10, Psychic Warrior. So the CIA and other black operations, secret projects by our government, and the governments all over the world, and particularly the Israeli Zionist Illuminati bankster types, who are into some kind of plan for a new age and a new world order. So I made a video number 10. I don't know how many I made. I have to go look it out, but you could just look up Freemasonry and Satanism Book Review 10, and every one of them will pop up. And I made a video on this stuff. The Russians were seriously into psychic research. They started the whole thing worldwide. This would have been series number 4. So you can see where I started out back in 2013, where I got the inspiration when I started discovering these things. I wasn't looking for the conspiracy theory angle. I was just interested in advancing my own knowledge of enhanced psychic abilities or different kinds of energies instead of using nuclear or gas or whatever, oil. I wanted to read about what the old scientists did, where they got their material. This is another one of Tim Rifat's books. You can see how much I read there. This is all stuff I read a long time ago. So I'm doing the one on Tim Rifat's book, this one right now. So can the government, do they have the abilities, have they been studying how we humans tick? Can they mind control us? The answer appears positively yes. So let me read a little bit from this. I've been reading it for the past couple days. And I'm not going to, of course, trying to be doing an audio book. And there are, interestingly enough, there are remote viewing videos on YouTube. I guess online lessons you can take. But I would suggest this technology can be dangerous, and I call sometimes this technology witchcraft, because there's a lot of forces out there that have advanced knowledge about human abilities, and they are using that knowledge against the rest of us. Throughout the past couple thousand years, it's completely verified and documented, like the Library of Alexandria, or even in Mexico when the conquistadors went in there to the Mexico City where it is now and went straight to the Shama's hut and confiscated all the religious artifacts, killed the Shama, They were after something, and they wanted to wipe away these ancient religions, these technologies, communicating with the invisible reality. It's my opinion that the more we all know, the better off we'll be. Because there are secret weapons they're using against us. And a lot of us are completely oblivious to it. All right, here it says the scientific basis of remote viewing. I've read a couple chapters here. I've had these books for a long time. But let me just read along and throw in my 2 cents and see if I can share some information. If you like what you're hearing and you think it's important, you can go find these books I just showed you. If remote viewing is to work, something must leave the body so that remote locations can be looked at. Remote viewing uses the energy field around the human form. I just showed you pictures of the auric field. The biophysical field to manifest perception outside the body. I'm not reading everything, I'm skipping over. The Russians have done much research in the search for PSI psychic genes that promote and mediate remote viewing. So this technology is in our genes. It's built into the human body. The greatest achievements lie in the discovery of the biophysical fields involved in psychotronics. This has led to the Russians developing a biological basis of remote viewing. So biophysics is the name of the next paragraph. Advances in development, cell biology, have enabled the author to link developmental biology with physics to enable the science of biophysics to include PSI, psychic abilities. The science can now explain how remote viewing works. Remote viewing uses biophysical fields to enable perception to occur outside the physical body by means of a sixth sense. I don't know if you ever saw that movie with Bruce Willis, The Sixth Sense. There's many movies about this stuff. Is it all real, or is it not? Are all these books, and many more that I have on psychic research, etc., and that videos I produced over the years, you can go online and see them, is it all real, or not? And here's my point. If it's not all real, then why did the powers that be publish all this stuff? So if they're faking it all, that's concerning. If it is real, and most people are not aware of it, then that's a problem, and that's concerning. So either way, it's concerning. We should be aware of our reality. Our very lives, lives of the human race may depend on it. There's a lot of talk now. I was watching a video on the Rents, Jeff Rents and Regis Tremblay. There's a video you can go watch. 30 seconds to midnight. They say we're this close to having a worldwide nuclear war, which will wipe everything out. So the clock is ticking. Tick, 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 tick. And I think the difference between how the whole thing winds up is whether people are aware or not aware. In more ways than one, whether it's the destruction of the physical body or the spiritual body. The propaganda with all the New Age material, and people even embracing and calling for globalization, believing the sustainability propaganda, global warming propaganda. It's reached very high levels. People are screaming at each other in the comment sections on press releases. I pay attention to that every day also. All right, back to the book. This sixth sense is a biophysical awareness that is the basis for out-of-body experiences, reincarnations, clairvoyance, or remote viewing, ESP, and telepathy. A lot of topics I've been talking about. The Kabbalah, mysticism. What do they know that we don't know? And are these technologies being militarized and used against us as part of the New Age and New World Order? What can you learn and what can you do? And I do believe that in this invisible realm where when we die our souls go, our spirits go, I do think there is an accounting for your behavior in this reality. Call it karma, call it getting through the pearly gates into heaven, or earning your way into Hades, burning hell or something. From my research into psychic research, reading some big thick books on seances and contacting the dead, it did appear that people who were good people, when contacted from the beyond, they were really happy where they were. And people who were not so good, thieves and other types of people, when they were contacted, they were just very unhappy. Very unhappy. And they described their environment as very bad. So if you learn how to use the remote viewing, like apparently the people who are controlling our world right now, with this witchcraft and satanic rituals and mesmerization and propaganda deceiving us, if you use this stuff for your own gain, for evil, beware. It won't end very well after you leave planet Earth. Just a little thought. So I'm not afraid of this kinds of material. I'm not afraid of people learning about it. I just wonder what people will do. Apparently the people who already have these kinds of technologies are using it for their own personal gain and have all kinds of organizations. That's something I got to show here in a second. And they're recruiting people every day, like the Freemasons, Rosicrucians, witchcraft organizations, New Age cults and groups. Church of Satan is growing like a weed. All kinds of evil things are growing. And they're talking about this paradigm shift on Earth. Again, this topic ought to interest all of us. I got so many books, I don't even know what books I have. About 600 books. And I was looking at my bookcase and one book jumped out at me, which is the way it usually works. There's something to this intuitive ability, enhancing your psychic abilities. The old saying, seek and ye shall find, ask and ye shall receive. It seems to be true. But anyways, I was looking at this index and I'm like, wow, that looks interesting. Spiritual Community Guide. I said, what's that? That's got to be interesting. I don't know when I bought it. But apparently, New Consciousness Sourcebook. Introduction by Buckminster Fuller. So you got all kinds of topics here. Birth, health, technology, nutrition, ecology, yoga. So basically what it is, wherever you live, all these organizations addresses, type of organization, a whole book, an index of this thing, like a yellow page phone book. So I looked at a couple things, one that jumped out at me. Festivals and events. And I'm aware that these witchcraft, Illuminati, evil cults, Kabbalistic people, mysticism, they have their holidays on the solstices when the sun goes all the way towards the southern hemisphere, which is winter in the northern hemisphere, and it comes all the way back up here in the summer, and so it's a summer solstice and a winter solstice, and when it crosses the exact middle point, that's an equinox. That's when they have these witchcraft and other types of holidays. Even holidays that the rest of us all celebrate, but we're not aware of it, like May Day and Halloween. And think about it. The solstice, when it goes to winter, is around December 21, 2, and 3, the days before Christmas when Jesus was born. So the sun starts rising again right after the 23rd, and Jesus was supposed to be born on the 25th. You think that's a coincidence? So I started reading here about these, the Himalayan International Institute of Yoga, Science, and Philosophy, and the Intergroup Committee on the Three Linked Festivals. And I did read the word solstice. 12-hour preceding the exact time of the full moons of Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. So you can tie in this stuff that I've been talking about, astrology. There's more to reality than we all know, which I've been saying. New Age politics, as it says right here on the bottom. So I'm saying this thing is much bigger than most people think. Back to the book. All right, a little science lesson in psychic material. Remote viewing. Militarized organizations, people recruited by the government, 6 months training, 12 hours a day, so that these troops, these people, in the USA, China, Japan, Russia, whoever, all over the world, the intelligence services have these organizations, can leave their body and go spy on the enemy, and also influence events, influence people, take control of people. This bizarro world around us is more bizarre than we all know. Okay, back to the book. It is well known that the physical body is surrounded by a mantle of electromagnetic energy. I showed you the book on auras. Our eyes pick up this low-level light emission, though 90% of this information is filtered out of the thalamus area of the brain. So I took the time, and I like to learn about things. I said, where is the thalamus? You can go look up the brain in the pictures and see that you have the outer cortex, the big part of the brain on top, and the stem, the spinal cord, the reptilian brain on the bottom. And right in the middle is the thalamus and the suprathalamus, and the pituitary gland, and the pineal gland, and all the things they're talking about. So when you do remote viewing exercises, and it tells you to focus on a particular portion of your brain, I thought it might be handy to have a little chart so I could see where that portion of my brain was. So 90% of the information that we see with our eyes is filtered out. It's like a radio station. If you have it just a little bit off the station, it starts crackling or picking up some other station. You got to tune it back to get nice and clear and crisp. Apparently your body does the same thing. And it's the thalamus in the brain. Where is it here? Where my finger is. That does the filtering. And part of it is because of the way we were raised and the school training. we weren't taught to use our psychic abilities, so they were unused, and they need to be retrained. Your body does if you want to use them to be a remote viewer. So it was filtered out by the thalamus area of the brain. This is the part of the brain that deals with attention and is located in the limbic system. We'll see limbic on this chart. Information that goes through this thalamus mental filter is filtered into the visual mental model that we see as reality. The advanced mental training involved in learning remote viewing enables the remote viewer to clear the neural and mental blockages that make ordinary people perceive but a pale shadow of the real world. So the bottom line is in your day-to-day life, it's so busy with stuff, colors, noises, activities, thoughts. I got to go pick up the children. I got to go shopping. I got to go to work. I'm running out of money. Whatever. It crowds out your ability to perceive things that are there, but they're just not focused on. Just like you can focus on this wall behind me, or you can just focus on this thing up here. You can't do both at once. And so when you learn to control all that outside noise and all those thoughts in your brain, because your brain just goes on and on and on, if you can shut all that down and make it quiet, and you train yourself to do this a few weeks, a month, you start to enhance or pick up this ability to remote view, to see things that other people don't see. Like I said, I read a couple chapters. I'm just trying to summarize here while I go along. Information that gets through the thalamus mental filter is fitted into the visual mental model that we see as reality. The advanced mental training involved in learning remote viewing enables the remote viewer to clear the neural and mental blockages that make ordinary people perceive but a pale shadow of the real world. I think that was worth pointing out and saying twice. Once one can unfilter visual perception using remote viewing training programs, auras can be seen. So you get a book like this. This book was written to help you learn how to remote view. But I think what's more important than that is it shows you how to take control of your own body and mind and can improve your health, because bad thinking and depression and negative thinking causes disease. So when you get those thoughts or behavioral patterns set up in your life, you're actually killing yourself and aging yourself. All kinds of possibilities here, but the people apparently had a little tongue twister there. Apparently, the people in power don't want this information disseminated to the rest of us. Actually, it's worse than that. With the fluoride in the water and all these other ingredients in our foods, and even the visual input into our eyes and our ears, it seems like they're doing everything they can to keep us scurrying around like rats trying to find a place to hide, and not use our highly consciousness and intellect. Who gets to really make any decisions in even presidential elections anymore? It's just that the world is divided into two parts, the Democrats, the Republican in the United States, and they gave us crazy choice number one or crazy choice number two. And it's certainly confused everybody. This is insane. This isn't common sense. Somebody's messing with us. So they know how the brain works. They've been working on this for a long time, and I've got the books. I've gone over the material, and I'll go over it again. There's something sinister going on. Once one can unfilter visual perception using remote viewing training programs, auras can be seen. Stimulation of the brain by the use of auto-visualization. The use of visualization to imagine the internal parts of the body, then control them by willpower, can affect brain function so that deeper, more relaxed states of mind can be achieved, which are the gateway to remote viewing. So again, I don't think ignorance is bliss. Knowledge is very valuable and powerful. The Russians discovered that visualizing a set of physical actions, such as gymnastics or shot putting, I guess that would be some kind of sport, in the mind's eye, closing your eye and visualizing this, enabled Soviet athletes to train their bodies to better accomplish the athletic event. They also discovered that auto-visualization of the immune system could boost its efficiency. This, an American doctor called Simonton developed this methodology. He taught cancer patients to visualize their immune system's white blood cells eating cancer cells. So here you are, you go into a meditative state, relax, and close your eyes and visualize your whole body. Visualize little tiny white blood cells, like a Pac-Man, running around eating cancer cells. Be curious if that works. Hope I don't ever have to try it and find out if I get ill. Auto-visualization was found to increase the life expectancy of those terminal cancer patients. Carl Simonton, Simonton, if you want to look him up. My research has found that auto-visualization of the brain itself can alter consciousness and develop remote viewing abilities without recourse to expensive biofeedback and EEG machines as used by the U.S. military for remote viewing. What do you think? You think the government's into remote viewing? Remote controlling other people? Alright, next paragraph starts out with electromagnetic fields. Now remember, this is just a conversation. Get a notepad, take some notes. If you're interested, go do some research. And if you find out all this stuff is real, then what are you going to think? And if you find out that it seems like this new world order is going to be the governmental powers against the peoples. So I guess having these psychic superpowers might be good for us. They got these superpowers. The electromagnetic field, EM, around the body consists of infrared and visual range radiation, together with other fields such as electrical fields and magnetic fields. And right now, as we all know, we are surrounded, being bombarded with electromagnetic energies from low frequencies, middle frequencies, high frequencies, cell phones, HAARP transmitters, bombarding a whole city. These gigantic 40-acre HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, transmitters, microwave energy. They can make a whole city, all the people, they can make them all go crazy, insane. Turn up a big microwave transmitter. You wouldn't put your head in a microwave oven, would you? And they could be microwaving everybody to a very low degree. Nobody would actually feel it. You would start to get agitated and angry. And they have these technologies. I've gone over this material. You can look it up. Washington State. They were driving around with these vans with microwave transmitters and turning them on and blasting the neighborhoods as an experiment here in the United States. I'm sure they've already blasted cities. They say these technologies can also be pulsed and cause earthquakes and all kinds of other destructive activities, including possibly taking down the Twin Towers in 9/11. So like I say, it might just behoove us to wake up. He says here, this author, my research interest has been in the biological and biophysical basis of paranormal phenomena. Since the body has an intrinsic electromagnetic mantle, part of the aura field, could this EM field be projected outside the body? Dr. Ross Ade, a scientist at Loma Linda University Medical School in Loma Linda, California, carried out research on how the human brain could be controlled by the use of pulse-modulated microwaves. See? They're learning to do things that are quite sinister. And most people will never know it's happening. Anyways, Dr. Ross Ade, A-D-E-Y, he has provided us with knowledge of the pathway by which EM fields can directly affect the brain and the body. Research into this area of microwave mind control was begun by the Russians in 1953. They had something called the woodpecker. And what they did is they pulsed a microwave beam at the embassy. I'll read here what it says what happened. The U.S. Embassy in Moscow was bombarded with microwaves at the end of 1960s, and half of the staff developed a rare blood disease similar to leukemia. So they know how to give everybody in a whole city, maybe the whole country, leukemia, diseases. Do you think they would do it? Well, if I look up in the sky and I see they're dumping chemicals, and we know they want to depopulate the planet, Georgia, USA, the Georgia Guidestones, please go look them up. It says they want to have a world population of 500 million. So I guess that means that 6 billion have to die. And if they got these technologies, they could just be killing people everywhere. And maybe they are now. Who knows what kind of weapons they're using in the Middle East? 1/3 of the people at the embassy subsequently died of cancer, and the U.S. ambassador being one of the victims. Tiny levels of microwave radiation, if they carried extremely low frequencies, ELF waves, can kill, make a victim mad, or change their behavior. I don't make up the stuff I talk about in these videos. I've done a lot of research and a lot of reading, and you can go buy this book and many others. And books I have, I'll be going over. Could information gleaned by roving biophysical EM fields effects be the basis for remote viewing? These EM fields could be picking up information, then transferring it to the brain by the above mechanism. So they can pick up on your thoughts by aiming a beam at you. You don't even know they're doing it, or at your house. And I guess it's quite sensitive equipment. And they can find out what you're thinking once they tune into your frequency. And what they do is they also they take an emotion and they digitize it. Then they can radiate it out even through your TV screen on some kind of flicker rate or something you can't even see. Let's say they want to emit some kind of anger or bias towards the Republican or whatever, the gay agenda. They want to create and stir up more viciousness in the population. Apparently, they can do that. Could remote viewing be a case of mental radio, one mind picking up what another mind is seeing? In this case, the monitor, by mechanism similar to a wireless tuning into a radio station. Russian research, as we have seen, pointed to ELF waves being the carrier for remote viewing information. The ELF wave, extremely low frequency, of about 20 cycles per second, can pass through the cranium and be picked up by the brain. So here are these little slow frequencies, 20 per second, aimed at you. And of course, you can't see radio waves. The effect is the basis for all the microwave mind control devices. So we have these people going crazy, shooting at people, then shooting themselves. Can these mind control devices cause that? Bring that about? Is it a weapon? What are we the people know? Used by British intelligence personnel on the general public. So apparently the British intelligence personnel were using these microwave mind control devices on the public. Remote viewing could well work on the analogy mechanism. Unfortunately, it is not the whole picture. RV remote viewing operators can psychically travel to distant star systems. Some of this stuff I find hard to believe. U.S. remote viewers spent most of their spare time remote viewing aliens, their home worlds, and their bases on the moon and Mars. So like I said, I'm not also trying to teach this stuff as the truth. These books were written. Do I believe that remote viewing is possible? I would say yes, because of one big reason. I've personally had an out-of-body experience. I've seen myself looking at me like I'm looking into this camera and seeing myself. It's quite amazing. I've told the story in previous videos. Alright, jumping over here, the Sunday Times reported that Ingo Swann, he was a famous remote viewer, psychic, INGOSWANN, in a remote viewing session was asked to look at Jupiter. He reported that the planet had a ring around it. At the time of this, was thought to be incorrect. So they didn't think he really saw Jupiter. They thought he was looking at Saturn. Swann assumed his discovery was mistaken view of Saturn. So even he thought he was looking at Saturn because Jupiter's not supposed to have a ring. The SRI scientist, Dr. Hal Puthoff, and I have some of his books, counted it as an error, so they did have a certain error rate, in account of their findings. So when he came back and said Jupiter had a ring, the scientist said, well, you must have made a mistake, and they were trying to fine-tune their procedures to get accurate remote viewing. And that was in 1977. 2 years later, Voyager 1, when it flew past Jupiter, sent back pictures showing that the planet did indeed have a ring around it. So did he remote view Jupiter or did he not? If somebody's falsifying this book and creating these kinds of stories, that's a bit bizarre. And if they are doing that, that's concerning also. No time delay in remote viewing Jupiter was noticed. This indicates that EM radiation is not a carrier for remote viewing. Experiments have been carried out using shielded rooms where remote viewers tried to look at distant locations, even though all EM radiation was blocked out. It was found that these shielded rooms offered no impediment to remote viewing. Something other than EM radiation must be involved. So if you don't know what a Faraday cage is, if you got inside one, a cage wrapped around with small knit screen-like metal wire, then radio waves can't get inside. They're blocked. So screen meshing all the way around a room, let's say your bedroom, and the floor, and the ceiling, all around. They nailed it all to the door. Went in there and pulled it shut. You would not have any of the wireless radiations and HARP systems bombarding you. But apparently, the remote viewer leaving his body would go right through that mesh wire. It didn't seem to interfere with that particular physics. Alright, it gets a little bizarre here, but I'll read it. Traveling backward and forwards in time was practiced by all the United States remote viewers. Mr. Monteagle has remotely viewed Christ. So if you believe this stuff, and he went back and he went to see those times in history, and he says it's true, well, there you go. Is this book all lies, or is this true? When Morehouse, I just showed you his book, has used remote viewing to look at the Ark of the Covenant, this is important. Remember, we're talking about Jewish mysticism in some of my videos. So the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark they carry around, apparently has the 2 tablets from the 10 Commandments. And apparently, like in the Indiana Jones movie, when Indy and his girlfriend were tied to a post, and they opened the Ark, and Indy said to her, "Close your eyes." What was her name? Sarah? Don't look, close your eyes. And when they opened the Ark, this energy beam came out and swirled around the whole area and burned everybody to a crisp. So what's it say here? According to an article in Nexus magazine, after that particular remote viewing session, Mel Riley told Morehouse that the Ark of the Covenant was a part of the Israelis' temple that they carried into the wilderness. Now remember, they want to rebuild the King Solomon's temple now. That's why all this destruction's going on in the Middle East. And killing off the population, bombing everything, and plans for a greater Israel. This stuff is all connected. When you hear the next sentence. The Ark was kept in an inner sanctum of the great temple in Jerusalem. The priest who went into the inner sanctuary tied ropes around their ankles so that they would not be pulled into a dimensional doorway that the relic created. So here we have the Ark creating a dimensional doorway, and the priest had to tie ropes around their ankles so they wouldn't be pulled into that doorway. Then we have Project Montauk at the end of Long Island, where they were using electromagnetic energies to create portals, and they were abducting children from New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and pushing them into these time portals. And they would leave it open, and if the child came back through, a young boy, they could quiz him as what he saw. But many times the young boy didn't come back and was lost some point in time, the future or the past. Kind of bizarre story. Then, of course, there's the Jacob's Ladder, the 2 poles with that electricity line that goes up and down. And one scientist dropped a penny through it, or an ink pen fell out of his pocket in the experiment, and it reappeared across the room. And he embellished on this research and built a bigger one. And even apparently, a bizarre story, I agree. And jumped through it and went back in time. And he was penniless. He had some serious problems. He didn't know anybody. And everybody that he had been working with, scientists, was of course in the future. And nobody would believe his story. He had to wait quite a few years to catch up with himself. And then we had CERN going on with that bizarre ritual they were doing. And of course we have sacrifices of human and the Book of the Law with Aleister Crowley. And all this ritual magic, which apparently opens portals and allows some kind of beast to come into this world. Then also, I keep going on here, there's so many examples. Those archways, an arch of Baal, B-A-A-L, the devil, that they were planning on putting in New York and London. And people found out there was a bunch of uproar about it, and so they decided to not do it, but they still did it. But they called it the Archway of Titus, or the Archway of Palmyra. Same thing. The Arch of Baal was in Palmyra, Israel. And then I found out through UNESCO, the United Nations organization, they were building 1,000 of these arks and putting them up all over the world. So if they're portals and they're going to allow some demonic energies or beings into this world, I suppose that should concern us. And I read about this stuff here, about a dimensional doorway with the ark. So what did these remote viewers see? What does the government know that the rest of us don't know? I like reading this material and sharing my other thoughts. I've read so many books. This is my 13th year of non-stop reading all kinds of books. And started making videos in 2013, so 14, 15, 16, 17. October, September of this year will be 4 years. I planned on continuing to do this for 5 years. I'll probably reach maybe close to series number 200. Anyways, that's my commitment at this particular time. I think that should be enough. By then, if you, even now, go back and watch my early videos, like this is number 6, and go see some of the ones I made. You'll be amazed. And also, I could use some support. So if you want to donate to the cause of my research, it's cost me a lot of money and time. My website, rickmiracle.com, on the top right, it has a PayPal donate button. And when it says what you want to purchase, just type in donate, and then it has one item, and then put the dollar amount, and use a credit card or PayPal, and you can help me keep doing what I'm doing, trying to get the word out for the common man out there and woman. We don't have to be scientists or great thinkers or do a lot of hard research. And I recommend in my videos certain other videos to go watch. But yeah, please, if you are so inclined, go to rickmiracle.com, the top right. Just make a donation and help out. Either that or start doing your own, reading some books, talking to people, organizing groups. You can even download my videos and get a bunch of people together and have a little show. They did that in Ireland a few years ago, which motivated me to go past series number 25. Some people in a bar in Ireland were having a Rick Miracle Fest. And the guy says, well, we hope you don't stop doing this, because that actually named my series 1 to 25 when I was doing like number 15 of 25, 16 of 25. So I switched it off from 1 to 25 to 1 to 100, and then I got to that point and I had to just leave it open now. So help out with a donation. See, I went and tested it today. It works. Just go to rickmiracle.com, top right. And with the item it says select, just write in donate and then the dollar amount. And the rest of it is self-explanatory. Alright, moving on. It was the conclusion of the remote viewing community that this was was in fact a conductor or convector of some sort. So can they do time travel? Philadelphia experiment. Like I said, there's so many videos I've made on these topics. This is series 6, but I'm up to 126. Again, on my website, rickmiracle.com. On the left side is a link to a cheat sheet that gives you a list of my videos. So you can cut and paste into Word or something and have a little checklist. You can just go through there and select the UFO videos, the psychic research videos, whatever you want. Zionism, New World Order. Videos I made on the Bible. Anything. I believe everything is connected. We have one reality around us, besides the invisible reality, which is some kind of parallel universe. And when we leave the other reality as spirits, to come into this reality in the form of in a baby, when a baby is born, then we get to live a human life, and when we die, we go back into another reality. Just a fascinating conversation. Got to use your brain. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. You'll be a walking zombie. All right, moving on. It was something that channeled power to form some sort of a portal or opening into a fourth dimensional world. So this spiritual world is a fourth dimensional world. And in this world, our biological electrical bodies are three-dimensional. So we actually can't see four-dimensional reality. But if you learn how to remote view and retrain your body, you can see fourth-dimensional reality in this reality. There could be a ghost being in this room. Or if I go to the park or down by the river or in the forest. Apparently there's all kinds of beings everywhere. I made that one series, Carlos Castienda, A Separate Reality. Go watch that videos I made on that book, where he went down to Mexico and took peyote and worked with a shama and told all about his experiences. And I've got other books like that, and I'm going to make more videos on those topics. So I'm not off my mark here. I think I'm keeping up with the research, and I'm continuing to connect the dots. So a four-dimensional world, which is where the Creator dwelt. So apparently God, as we can perceive Him, a spiritual entity, is in the fourth dimensional world. And that fourth dimensional world controls this world. And apparently that God in that world sent prophets into this world and sent Jesus Christ into this world to teach us, in particular, how to behave, not to be killing and robbing and murdering each other. And apparently there are evil forces in the fourth dimensional world, or maybe there's another dimension, that are also bleeding through and working in cahoots with evil Illuminati, witchcraft, Zionist, mysticism people to have power and control over the rest of us for evil purposes. Just a simple explanation there. So the high priest was stepping through the portal into the fourth dimensional world, says Morehouse. So these remote viewers learned a lot, and as soon as they learned certain amounts of material, they quit their jobs. They quit working for the government. A lot of them went out to write books. I've just shown you some of the books. Electronic Enhancement of Remote Viewing, the next title. Russian remote viewers regularly visited U.S. facilities surrounded by steel walls. So the Russians started this, and there is a higher level of psychics, people in that area of Ukraine, Poland, Germany, Russia, for some reason. Maybe it's the culture, maybe it's something in the water. But after the rest of the world started discovering this stuff, they got into these technologies too, and we have all kinds of secret bases all over the United States and other facilities, and there's some horrific stuff going on. They actually put children and humans in cages and experiment on them. They're continuing to experiment and try to exploit these technologies. So someday it could be a very scary world we live in. And it seems to be becoming faster and faster, like I said, like a freight train with no brakes. So it is important we wake up. I'd like to think something else is the case, but I see the craziness in the regular Main Street news and stuff going on in the world. Even Russia is sending missiles over Syria. The whole world is bombing Syria. And Syria is one of the foundational places, including Iraq and all that other area, of these ancients, these hieroglyphics on the pyramids and inside the Sphinx and all that. And I did go over Aleister Crowley's material, and apparently that alien-looking creature named Aiwass that looked like a gray alien says that these other beings, Isis, Osiris, Horus, the all-seeing eye on the US $1 bill, are all part of these evil creatures who want to rule the world and enslave the rest of us. I made the video. It says it quite clearly. We can see what they're doing over in that part of the world. The inside job 911 to bring it about. World War I, World War II to bring the whole thing about. There is a plan, there was a plan, and it's been in play and in place for a very long time. And I've been going over those materials, even with the information in the Encyclopedia Judaica on the history of the Jewish people, the Kabbalah, and the other countries in Germany and all over the world, USA, anti-Semitism, and so many other books to connect the dots. Back to the book. Alright, so Russian remote viewers regularly visited U.S. facilities surrounded by steel walls, such as those in Dulce, a miles-deep secret base associated with aliens. I've gone over that material. We'll be going over that again. Books on that I have. And their technology. And Cheyenne Mountain. You see that picture where you watch a Stargate? A lot of the stuff they're telling us. Home of the Strategic Air Command, which were supposed to block out our remote viewing. So they try to make movies and funny things about this stuff. Hiding everything in plain sight is what they call that. All of these phenomena indicate something beyond the simple mental radio concept, where electromagnetic EM is used as a radio wave, a carrier for remote viewing. For this to be the case, non-EM fields must be the source of RV. So apparently there is this other physics besides electromagnetic forces. And a lot of people acknowledge that, quantum physics. This other gravitational field, again, non-electromagnetic. It's another portion of our reality the science haven't figured out yet. Apparently the ancients, the Atlanteans, before the Great Flood, they were aware of these technologies. On a U.S. TV show, Ed Dames, another famous psychic, and you can go look up these people on YouTube videos and watch some of these people speak. It's fascinating. And get yourself a notebook and make notes. Just an awesome amount of material out there. What people don't know, that's why I make these videos. So people can become aware. Ed Dames alluded to electronic enhancement of remote viewing. Perhaps United States researchers into remote viewing capabilities have learned to manipulate EM field effects for their remote viewing experiments using electronic enhancement of psychic effects. As we have seen, Russian researchers use magnetic fields and psychotronic generators to boost latent PSI activity. So we all have psychic abilities. They're dormant or latent. They're not being used. You can train yourself and learn how to use them. There are, again, videos on YouTube. There are books out there that I showed you. And it takes a little effort and time, but it could prove useful. And the governmental powers have all this. The secret society, all those organizations, they have all these technologies. They're using them on us. Make no mistake about that. Mind control. We think what we think because that's what they tell us to think. But there's a certain percentage of the people who refuse to just follow along like a zombie or a sheep. And those of us go out there and, in my case, 600 books and reading them for years. It's a lot of work just to get a little bit of ground, to move forward and say, wait a minute, something's weird going on here. Even the people all downtown want to brag that they're weird. Put skull and bone tattoos on their bodies, even their faces. And demons. I saw a TV show yesterday, and one of the guests had a big demon with the eyes right here, and his shirt came all the way down to here. I said, oh my. They really have done a job on the human race right now. And we know they want a new world order. Even the Pope's calling for it. A one world government. People going and protesting to President Donald Trump. Don't build that fence. We're all one people. Let all the Mexicans come in. There is No immigration issue. And that's why they're depopulating the Middle East. And Israel won't let anybody else in. And apparently it's the Israeli Zionist bankster people who control the world. And I've gone over videos, the Jewish Utopia, Robert Williams, The Ultimate World Order. Go watch that video I made. Those 3 videos on that book. Bloody Zion. Go watch those videos. Like I said, I'm up to 126. Almost 400 videos. 330. A lot of them 2 hours. So more than 400 hours. Maybe 500 hours. I believe all this stuff I've been researching and reporting is true. But people see it clearly. Even the billboard I saw the other day with the bottled water commercial up on a giant billboard on the highway. And on one of the bottles it had in rainbow colors, the 3-6 sign. Everybody knows what this is, 3 6s. And it had an eye peeping through. We know about the eye on the US $1 bill, and the eye represents Horus, the son of Isis and Osiris. Get it? Got it? As we have seen, Russian researchers used magnetic field and psychotronic generators to boost latent psychic activity to the level where it could be useful. So they have been studying this since the 1920s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s. In the 70s, they even brought about the hippie age, and over in Europe, they called it festivals, and were introducing LSD and drugs and everything into the population, creating all the rock and roll music, with some songs you play backwards sound like demonic voices, and on the album covers are satanic symbols. Like I keep saying, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure this out. Anyways, the author says, my research seems to indicate that they are only scratching the surface of the remote viewing phenomena. Alright, let's talk about some more stuff here. Brain rhythms. How does your brain work? Normal people are entrained to function in a state of consciousness called beta, which pushes their EEG measured brainwave to above 20 Hertz threshold. So when you're awake, you're conscious, you're in beta mode. And that's 13 to 39 Hertz. Where my finger is, where you're awake. You can look this little brain consciousness levels on your computer and get your own little charts. Okay, so you're at normal talking, me making a video is at 13 to 39. Now the super consciousness, somebody that's enraged, would be up here in the top, 40 to 80. Maybe somebody who's gone mad. They say, one piece of material I was reading, that there's a prediction by 2020 or just beyond that, 50% of the people of the world will be legally insane. Can they ramp up our biorhythm, our natural brain rhythm, beyond this normal waking state that I'm using right now, to a more elevated, excited state that drives people mad? I say they can. And are people going mad? Are they running out on rampages and shooting people and stabbing people and doing stuff? And then you see them in the courtroom after they've done it, and they look like a zombie, and they say they don't remember anything. Makes one wonder. But anyways, that's a super consciousness state, and they have all these control mechanisms, whether it's the cell phone, the flat screen TV, the iPad, and people are indoctrinated into these things even when they're children now. Why do you think they made sure that every person, including people who are poor, have a cell phone? Why? So anyways, when you relax and you want to try to be more aware of this other reality, you got to bring your consciousness level down. You got to relax. You got to quit thinking about things. You know how your brain just goes on and on and on? You got to practice a little bit. Focus on something. Close your eyes. Lay on the sofa. Listen to some nice, relaxing music. Something really soft that wants to put you off to sleep. But you don't want to go to sleep. And then when you reach 8 to 13 hertz, where my finger is, that's your alpha level. So when you get in an alpha level and you can keep yourself there, you can pretty much think like the living room of your house that you want to see what's there, and you'll get flashes and images. And of course, if you want to get a little bit more deeper and really get into psychic abilities, you take yourself into a trance like Edgar Cayce or all these people who are channeling, and go into 4 to 8 hertz. See where my finger is? That's called theta. And that's when you're sleeping too, when you're dreaming. And then a really deep sleep, like you're really out of it, is delta. So the different frequencies of the operation of your brain. And if you get a book like this or watch some of the videos and you train your brain to slow down at its frequency operational level, you can give yourself different abilities. It takes practice and a little work, and hopefully people who do take the time to do it use it for benevolent purposes on this planet, as well as a tool for getting the truth out, saving the planet, saving we the people. So there are many books on these things, the brain, the different parts of the brain, and you'll hear these terms. And I've been practicing a little meditation and some of the procedures in this book on how to get myself into an alpha or theta state where my fingers are. I made up a little script here for myself. When I get in a relaxed mode, visualize the beach. It's a warm, sunny day. So once you get yourself really relaxed, make up yourself a little script and have someone sit in a chair and suggest it to you, or memorize it and suggest it to yourself. Can you see the beach? You're totally relaxed. You closed your eyes. You slowed your brain down. You're not thinking about anything else. Can you see the water? Visualize the waves lightly breaking on the beach. Relax and enjoy the beach. So you're laying on your sofa. You can now gently leave your body. It's what you tell yourself. And see into the living room. Can you see me in the living room? Can you see yourself? Relax. And you got some really soft music on. Baroque, however you say it, music. Baroque. Alright, I found some bunch of that music on the internet, and I put that on really lightly. Relax, listen to the music. You feel great. Self-hypnosis maybe? Or go see a hypnotist and have them regress you. I'm just trying to say, as a conversation, this stuff is real. We're biological beings, and we have spirits or souls in us or around us that's a part of us, inseparable from us. We all ought to know that. The general public will be psychic damped and not exhibiting parapsychological talents to any marked degree. So our life, since we were children, going to school, playing in the playground, riding a bike, is so hectic and so busy. At the end of the day, we're exhausted, we go to sleep, but then we do slip into that theta state or alpha state, and we do dream. And if you're really out like a light, you're in delta and you're not dreaming about anything. But we haven't been trained as children to use these abilities. Remote viewing can be seen as new programming that does not conform to what our parents or teachers have filled our brains with. So to learn this new type of programming, we need to be able to directly input our own brains, directly input into our own brains, so that we can alter the existing program. Like I said, a lot of people out there are just feverishly, viciously angry at Republicans. They don't know why. Not all Republicans are evil. And all the Republicans are viciously angry at all the Democrats, and they don't know why. Not all Democrats are evil. But the programming is meant to divide and conquer. The Hegelian dialectic, the evil forces, the puppet masters, the banksters, the Zionists, the secret societies, into the occult, mesmerism, brainwashing. They know this stuff. And they need to keep all of us fighting each other. Poor Syrians don't have a chance. Palestinians never had a chance. The rest of us are so busy with other issues or not paying attention. Alpha training, which teaches people to work in the 7 to 14 hertz, I just showed you the chart, seems to open up psychic abilities. If neural cranium or neural calcium efflux events are crucial to psychic operation, then we can begin to see a reason why simple techniques of alpha entrainment, getting your body to operate at a relaxed level, and biofeedback bring on paranormal functioning in humans. So you got to get yourself down into the alpha state. You got to learn a little bit about what your brain is and what it does in the parts of your brain. Because you can give your own parts of your brain commands. You can tell your brain to shut down all functions except for survival functions and emergency functions. You can control. Your brain does not have to be the boss. You can tell it to stop. You can take control. You ever have those times when you're thinking about things and you just go on, all this and that, and the kids and the job and the boss and the people, the Republicans, the Democrats, the gay people, the young people, the old people, the money problems. You get lost in yourself. It's no good to anybody, including yourself or myself. So reading this material and studying up on our own human behavior, for a lot of us, and paying attention to the propaganda, the billboards, the TV programming, the Gotham series that I was watching, it started again this spring. I guess they do it every year. And I told my friends I need to watch it. And they go, "Are you crazy?" I said, "I need to watch it so I can talk about it, so I can have an opinion about it." And I'm here to tell you now, I do. I've watched enough of it. The viciousness, the slaughter of people and all that, right there on the big flat screen in your living room, it has an effect on us. A damaging effect. Alright, Ed Dames has stated that military remote viewers operate in theta. This is a brave wave frequency 4 to 7 hertz. Alright, since the energy of the electromagnetic wave is related to frequency, if we lower the frequency of the brain waves, we can think more with less energy, and more energy is available for remote viewing. So if you slow yourself down, you're not using so much energy to think. And apparently it leaves more energy for your subconscious self to have more abilities. Because these abilities are latent in all of us. All of us are psychic. We just got to learn how to control it, like learning how to speak or write when you're in grade school. You know how the teacher made you make an A and a B, and you practiced, or your first time riding a bicycle or swimming. It's the same thing, using your psychic abilities. You've got to just jump in there, read a couple bits of material. Some people pick up on it faster than others, and apparently if you work with other people trying to learn how to have these abilities, as a group, something happens in the atmosphere around the group. It says it in this book, but it helps people learn quicker in groups. Since the energy of the EM wave is related to frequency, if we lower the frequency of the brain waves, we can think with less energy, and more energy is available for remote viewing, which is therefore more efficient. As we shall see, theta consciousness is the doorway to remote viewing and PSI. So you need to slow down your brain, get a little grip on your life, control how you behave, don't get angry, get a little discipline, listen to some soft music, see what's chaotic in your life and try to reduce it. And your life will actually get a lot better, which is probably an obvious thing to say. Extending the human lifespan. It seems that entering the theta state, an ability that occurs in remote viewers who use extended remote viewing habitually, may enable them to rewrite their own DNA. So apparently our DNA is affected by the biophysical reality around us, this other energy field, this fourth dimensional field that's all around us. So it's not just our DNA. Scientists have figured this out now. It interacts with the reality around us, which is important when you think about the HARP systems, the many HARP systems placed in Alaska, Puerto Rico, Norway, all over the world, like a big triangle. Boom, 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 boom. Why do you think that is? You can go on the internet and look this up. So they can bathe the whole planet in certain frequencies and pulses. And if our biophysical field, the astral field around us, it controls and affects our DNA, our genes, then they have a invisible way of affecting all of the rest of us. Who knows, maybe even to the point of killing masses of people with invisible energies. Turning everybody off like a switch. Just thinking out loud here. We know there's some terrible things going on in the world right now. All that news is crazy and threats are crazy. Since telomeres are at the end of chromosomes, so every time your cell divides, apparently a DNA strand or something at the end of it gets worn off, like wearing off an eraser on a pencil. You keep using the eraser, and apparently later on there's no more eraser left. Just an analogy there. But anyways, as your cells divide, and they divide all the time, that telomere on the top of it slowly gets worn away as you get older, and it doesn't protect your cells and your DNA so well, and it causes aging. So if you could replenish that telomere, and there's a lot of stuff written about this, and they have drug therapy people can take, injections, and it replenishes artificially these theophore on top of your cells. It reinvigorates the human body. But apparently, if you learn how to remote view, you can remotely, intelligently make your cells grow that back naturally on its own and reduce your own aging, according to what I'm reading here. That's kind of a fascinating thought. But I would suspect they don't want you to know that. But they know that. Therein lies the problem. They know a lot of things they don't want the rest of us to know, which is why I do these book reviews and have a conversation. So maybe we can know. So they can say, hey, Rick, I don't believe you. But I have a notebook, and I'm going to write down what you're saying, and I'm going to go look it up. And I say I'm happily about that you do that. Because I know what you're going to find. You're going to find the same thing I found. I bought a lot of books because I didn't believe what the book said. I wanted to see what that author said about this other guy and go buy his book and see what he said about this other guy and try to track it all the way back. going on my 13th year. Two types of books out there. Like I just showed you, that one about the Spiritual Community Guide. All over the world are these organizations, New Age of all kinds of types. Some crazy stuff in here. So I can find another crazy one. The Sino-American Buddhist Association. Alright, Gurdjieff Foundation in California. George Itrovich Gurdjieff, born in 1877 near the Persian border of the Caucasian Russia, was bearing the teaching of extraordinary power. Amid the chaos of the Russian Revolution, he gathered a nucleus of men and women who followed him through Russia, Eastern Europe, and eventually to France. It's when he worked until his death. So these organizations are everywhere. And people are joining them, and a lot of people. Fantasy and reality, paths and practices. Seems like people are joining all kinds of cults. Why? What? How does it affect the rest of us? Is ignorance bliss, as I keep asking? So we're talking about extending human lifespan, and the telomeres are at the end of chromosomes and are nibbled away every time a cell divides. I just said all that. The cell then ceasing its division when the telomere has been eaten away. Loss of telomeres is associated with aging. So apparently you can even heal yourself or make yourself younger, because apparently when you learn how to use your inner self, your subconscious, and lower the crazy activity going in your normal reality, and get within yourself. It's explained better in this book. You can do a lot of interesting things. One, bringing about a significant improvement in your health. Reversing cancer and all kinds of other things, according to this book and many others I could show you. And we'll be going over these things. It's only so many hours in a day, and only so many days in a week, and only so many weeks in a month. For so many things I want to do, can't do it all. Psychic mind control. Remote influencing. Remote influencing is a basis of hypnosis. My research would seem to indicate that remote viewing of other people can enable the psychic operator to affect the brain and neurons of another person. So if you're really strong, and according to some of the material I read in those other books on remote viewers, they were actually able to control another person. The other person didn't even know it. The Japanese have brought a large amount of psychotronic research, purchased a lot of equipment from the Russians, while the Chinese have research centers dedicated to remote influencing. It could be a crazy world. Since the biophysical field resides in all of us, it would seem probable that remote influencing will be seen as a threat to the decision makers. Is it any wonder they plan on microchipping everybody, enslaving the world? They have some serious things to fear if people wake up to this stuff. In the future inner space arms race, these key movers and shakers will be on the front line, and their thoughts not their own. So the troops will be on the front lines, people, movers and shakers, Their thoughts will not be their own. A remote influencing is used by the Chinese and others to control Western policies. So are they having psychic warfare right now? It appears likely. While the burgeoning of small individual companies in the remote viewing field, all run by retired U.S. military personnel, one can be sure that effective remote influencing will leak into public domain in a slow and safe manner. However, the military remote influencing being developed will pose a significant threat to economic, political, and military decision makers, making them targets in future wars. So can the remote view our decision makers in the stock market and other things? Can they bring the world down with these remote viewers? Tim Rifat, the author of this book, speaks a lot with the Jeff Rense program on the internet, R-E-N-S-E. And so if you put in Jeff, R-E-N-S-E, and Tim Rifat, R-I-F-A-T, usually there's some current material out there. And some very interesting conversations about things going on in the world and his abilities to remote view and make things happen. This is real time. You can go find it now. All right, moving on here. Since the biophysical field resides in all of us, I already said that is a threat to the decision makers and the burgeoning of small individual companies. You can go to remote viewing schools, about $1,000 to $7,000 a week, and learn how to remote view. Suppose it would be good for numerous things if you could see the future and the past. What kind of world are we getting into? All right. Alternate healing, the remote influencing effect, is the scientific basis of the mind over matter phenomena, such as the laying on of hands or absent healing. So you see these guys who get on stage and lay on the hands and heal, or Jesus in the Bible healing. They were interacting with this other world, affecting your DNA, which also is affected by the biophysical field around us. I guess we all are connected to our reality. And when they're doing all these strange things to our atmosphere and the electromagnetic spectrum with the microwave transmissions and cell phone towers and Gwen towers, secret transmitters everywhere. Go look it up, G-W-E-N, Gwen. And flicker rate, flat screen TVs, digitizing everything. Who knows where this is all going? All right. With the morphogenetic fields of the biophysical body being able to affect all aspects of the cell and its genetic structure, so medicine will produce wonder cures if they would allow that. But now they're giving us genetically modified foods and herbicides and pesticides, altered DNA foods, genetically modified, that are toxins to our bodies, causing cancer and tumors, mercury in vaccines. Who knows what's in the breakfast cereals, which are owned and controlled by name brand Illuminati bloodline family members? You ever think about that? The milk, the plastics in certain macaroni and cheese mixes. And I go to special stores now where they sell more healthier foods. No hormones in the meats. Organic. You got to go out of your way to try to get away from the toxins and destructive things they're trying to put into our bodies. Fluoride, so much more. Remote influencing may also enable the operator to significantly extend his or her lifespan. I read that already. All right, the next page. All right, continue on. The next topic here is quantum reality. And there's all kinds of magazines out there and science. And things are changing. I think a lot of us are aware of that. I'll just give a brief bit of information here. It was found that in the world of quantum mechanics, subatomic entities, such as the electron, could not behave not only as a particle, but also as a wave. So that's pretty common information now. And of course, we're all made up of subatomic particles, our cells and everything in our body, our blood, our bones. And they're coming in and out of reality. Particle, wave, particle, wave. So I guess the whole thing, everything here is like a constantly moving entity thing, including the wood behind me and the books and the pictures on the wall. Our whole reality. Maybe it is some kind of matrix. But it's the only reality we have, so I think we ought to wake up and learn about it if we want to keep it. What if the biophysical fields used for remote viewing are not electromagnetic radiation, but a new form of quantum fields? And I believe that. I think there is another science, and I've read a lot of books. I'm a techie. I have an electronic technology degree. I worked at a major aerospace company for 10 years. So I can understand a little. If this were so, then these large-scale quantum mechanical events could explain how the biophysical field can be in two places at once, over the target site and over the remote viewer. Even that recent thing a few months ago or last year, all that hoopla and talk about the Mandela effect. I said this in a recent video, I think on the Aleister Crowley, the Book of the Law, which is completely satanic, even declaring the serpent is the supreme being. But I mentioned that I've been noticing that it's like the Twilight Zone. Everything around us seems like it's changing. It's just a little bit, barely perceptible. But if you pay attention, you can see it. All right, another topic here. It says here, why remote viewing is hit or miss until one is adequately trained. It may also explain why remote viewing information may be patchy at first, and then suddenly there can be biolocation, where it seems as if the remote viewer is actually at the distant place. So like I said, if you can slow down your brain waves and start perceiving your reality and even closing your eyes and focusing on different parts of your brain. Instructions are in this book and probably videos on YouTube. You'll probably start noticing some slight changes or abilities, differences. And apparently, it may not seem like you're getting anywhere, then all of a sudden you'll have an event. Maybe you'll think about your grandmother's house. You're focusing on it, you're closing your eyes, you've lowered your brainwave, and you want to focus on her living room. And you're just picturing it in the middle of your brain, the image. And poof, all of a sudden you have a vision, and Grandma's sitting in her favorite chair, and then you wake yourself up, relax, and get on the phone and say, Grandma, where are you? What are you doing? Could be interesting. Morphogenetic fields. Life-shaping energy fields. Biophysical morphogenic fields are needed to switch on specific genes and turn off others, depending on their position in the blastocyst in the womb. So when there's an egg in the female womb, it, doesn't probably look like this, but think of inside of a chicken egg with the yolk and the white fluid. So the human womb is in there. And what forms the head versus the chest versus the arm versus the legs and all the parts are its position to the XY axis, according to what I read here. So when that embryo egg develops, it's not just what's in it, it has something to do with the field around us, the biophysical field, the morphogenetic fields. And again, concerning to me, I have alarm bells going off, ring, ring, ring. If they are using these electromagnetic waves, HARP systems, dumping heavy metals with the spraying of chemicals in the sky, and all kinds of toxics and pesticides, herbicides, altered foods in our bodies, how will that affect everything? And radiation, Fukushima, the Columbia River up in Washington State, nuclear power plants all over the country leaking. Even the visual, mental effects of terrorism and all this other stuff that keeps people in a state of stress. And they're talking about by 2020 or some year not too far behind that, over 50% of the humans will be insane. The TV programming like the Gothic program and Lucifer and everything else, all these horrific shows with violence and vicious murder and all kinds of other nasty events. How does that affect us? Are we designed to be like Frankenstein monsters? I don't think so. Somebody's trying to bring about anarchy and chaos. And even George Bush Sr., and many others, by the way, calling for the new order, said out of chaos and anarchy will come the rule of law, the New World Order. I think they know exactly what they're doing. They're slowly destroying us. That's a tough thing to say. I worry about the young people. I believe in God. I'm confident. I try to adhere to the Ten Commandments. Of course, I don't always do a good job at that. And none of us do, whether it's saying a lie or whatever we do. But you try. And in the case of Christians, when Jesus knew the situation, and he said, whoever believes in me shall be saved. So in this fourth dimension, where apparently God is, I've gone over a lot of material, the Book of Enoch and so much more, and I'm going to continue going over it. That's where our real home is. Being in these biological bodies is a gift. And I believe we're supposed to use this thing on the top of our head, inside our brain, and think. So many people are not. You can't even have a conversation. They'll get angry at you. Shut up. I don't want to talk about it. It's too much to think. I don't want to make a decision. What are you to do? That's why I make videos. I realize I actually can't go out there and try to sit down and talk to an individual. It's just too much to talk about. We're talking almost 500 hours of videos I've already made. It takes a while for somebody to get it. A little bit of work. But I think there's a lot to gain. And it's certainly interesting and exciting. Some of this stuff is just too bizarre. Alright, so the XY axis of the embryo in the womb of a woman is what interacts with the biosphere around us. At the bottom axis, the anal opening in the center of the blastocyst, that's what they call that thing, in the woman. The gut tube. On the surface, the skin, the cells. So what's in this makes up the human being as an infant is its XY axis the science have figured out. Biophysical fields hold the information to tell each identical cell to be different, depending upon their position. It's just interesting. This was a profound revelation to the author, who realized that the biophysical field contains large amounts of information not held in the genome. So it's really not in our DNA. Our DNA is a part of the code. It's just like a CD. You could sit there with a CD all day long, hold it up to your head, it's not going to play music. Stick it in a CD player, boom. So the same thing with our cells and our lives. It interacts with the biophysical field around us. And I'm saying they're messing with Mother Nature with all these things they're doing to our biophysical, our atmosphere, the foods, the water, the vibrations, what goes in our eyes, stuff we can't even feel. All right, moving on. And I've got some books that show that the scientists and the governments are into these evil, sinister activities. I've made videos on this stuff before. I'll be making new ones again. I go on different sequences of different things I get interested in. Reading stuff like this is interesting to me. Doing the one on the Book of the Law, Aleister Crowley, I didn't want to make that video. But it was necessary. It needed to be said. People needed to know what it said in there. And some of these other stuff. Jewish mysticism, the Kabbalah. The arches of Baal that we're putting up around the world. The satanic or rituals they're having. You can see on TV, whether it's what's her name? Alina Lendi Grande over there in London, or Beyonce, or Lady Gaga, or Madonna. So many of them. And you watch the halftime shows on football, Super Bowl, or the Emmys and Grammys, or the Olympic openings. You can see that even have horns, that it's all some kind of serpent satanic ritual. There is something happening, and it's intentional. And these forces and beings are in charge. And they're hoping the rest of us don't wake up to this. And they have these kinds of technologies I'm going over here at their disposal. And they're not trying to do good things to the human race. They're bombing the smithereens out of the Syrians, and apparently the Iranians are next. And they're already threatening a nuclear conflict between USA and Russia, and even the Russian president in the news today said that nobody would be the winner, but apparently these insane people of control the United States and NATO actually think there can be a winner. There's even been articles written, published, Main Street News, that we need to get everything in position and make a first strike on Russia. The Russians are aware of that publication. You get one of those OMG moments. Alright, back to the book. It did not take me long to realize that the natural consequences of remote viewing was the development of remote viewing practitioners of the evolution of their morphogenetic fields. So apparently when you learn how to do these things, become more psychic, it does help you to evolve higher up. Now again, the secret societies and the secret black operations by the governments for the last 100 years intensely, since Nikola Tesla. What do they know that we don't know? And what are they doing to us and have plans for us that we're unaware of? Alright, by exercising the biophysical body, by using RV techniques, the morphogenic fields of which it is composed evolve and become aware, primary consciousness. With long practice, these fields become self-aware, higher-order consciousness. This process enables powerful remote viewing abilities, but more importantly, it could lead to the psychic able operator being able to switch his genes on and off. The author has developed paranormal psychic neural immunology, PPNI, paranormal psycho neural immunology, the use of remote viewing remote sensing, and remote influencing to raise morphogenetic fields to the high order consciousness. With the discovery that a gene changed naturally into a normal version in a patient suffering from lethal genetic disease, it appears our genome can be changed in the body. Wow. Just reading my highlighted portions, by the way. I'm not reading everything. And I'm only trying to get 2 hours completed. So we'll be finished with this shortly. Research into remote viewing and OOBE, out-of-body experiences, one of which I've personally had. And strangely enough, I had it on Christmas Day Eve, where I had been doing charity work all day, and I went home by myself. And the next thing I know, I was floating in the air in my living room when seeing me on the sofa. Quite interesting. And especially Christmas Day Eve. Out-of-body indicates that the biophysical field can also think separately from the body and can, when developed, become self-aware, high-order consciousness. So I was completely self-aware when I was floating up in the air, and I had some evidence to prove it. I looked around the room and made some observations that I couldn't see walking around in my room. Things in my apartment I never knew. This enables lucid dreaming, astral travel, and the perception of looking down on oneself after a near-death experience. And they've had a lot of people who died and were brought back to life in hospitals, for example, children. And they would talk about the tunnel and seeing their aunts or uncles or grandparents who were telling them it wasn't their time, that they were going back. And maybe some of these grandparents were dead before they were even born. They'd never seen them, but when they come back, they describe them. There's plenty of books on these topics. I've got some of them. We'll look at some of them, but only one thing at a time. By practicing remote viewing, the biophysical body is developed from a latent state to one in which it has a mind of its own. Spontaneous remote viewing then occurs. So I guess it could be more interesting than maybe what somebody would want. I have heard one person who was doing the remote viewing saying after they were practicing, they would find themselves out of their body accidentally more often than they wanted. And then, of course, if you start communicating with the beings doing channeling, you might find that these beings can get in your sphere and communicate to you when you're not calling them up on the phone or using your psychic ability going into a trance. And I suppose that could be a little spooky. And then again, when you do channel material, like Jesus said in the Bible, you need to test the spirits. Just because you can see some being, you might want to beware. Demonic beings are not very nice. It can be quite harmful and cause your immediate death. Even in this book, it talks about the remote viewers were learning to be able to go and remote kill people. Just saying, it's stuff we should know about to realize what's really going on in our reality. What are the governments into? What's going on in Dulce underground facilities, Area 51, and many other mysterious hidden sites? Cheyenne Mountain, bases underneath the buildings in Washington, D.C. and Virginia, even a completely, fully operational second government that's in place today. Did you know that? They're ready for something. And I don't think they really give a care, a concern about the rest of us. As a matter of fact, I think they would like to wipe out 90% plus of the people. They need to keep some. Sex slaves, worker slaves, warrior slaves, entertainment slaves, throwing them to the lion. If They want to bring back the ancient times. I know, it gets bizarre. This parallel reality is seen in lucid dreaming and out-of-body experiences. So a dualistic reality. And is glimpsed in the daydreaming states. Australian Aborigines have a whole body of knowledge about this daytime reality, dreamtime reality. Remote viewers are relearning abilities that our ancestors had direct knowledge of millennia ago. In my research, this quantum reality overlays the physical world. When you shut your eyes and imagine yourself in the place you are sitting, looking at what is around you, the biophysical field that you possess is beginning to become aware of the quantum reality that is the shadow pair of our own. So that's a good exercise there too, whether you go sit out in the back porch or in the living room and just make yourself really quiet anywhere you go. But just start paying attention. Look at the trees, the bug, the birds, the bees, the air. Just start really focusing on your reality. You might be a bit surprised what you start to see. There's more there that you're just disregarding. Your brain is trained that way. My research has led me to believe that this daytime reality is not electromagnetic in nature, but it is composed of a new set of field effects. These field effects are the basis of biophysical, biotronic, and bioplasmic phenomena. The electronic side of psychotronics used by governments for mind control devices and related weapon systems mimics these fields. So they talk about things and all kinds of crazy weapons right now. Scalar weapons. Like I said, using electromagnetic energies, other kinds of energies, remote viewers, symbols. That's part of witchcraft and magic and mysticism in the Kabbalah. The symbols are everywhere. That's geometry is what it is, numerology. Even in words and vibrations. It all has an effect on us. As is said in the Aleister Crowley, the Book of the Law, you can't change a single letter or word in that book. It had intended magical purposes. And I'm aware in the 1600s and 1700s, a lot of the magicians and other people working with kings and queens and other elitists, they were something called beautifying the languages, the German language, the Spanish language, the English language, the French language. And they were changing the vowels and letters and structure, in my opinion, for intended magical purposes, to enhance the magical effect. I've gone over that in the past. So they do that with the shapes and the symbols and the things we see. Your subconscious self is alive, and sometimes it's aware of things. Well, not sometimes, all the times. It's aware of things that our physical brain and eyes and ears is not aware of, because we're kind of myopic. We're just focused on screaming at the kids, going shopping, having a beer, having a cup of coffee, eating some ice cream, going to work. We're not taking time to see everything. But our spiritual self, it's like going along for the ride. It sees everything, and it causes us to have emotional situations. Sometimes it like kicks us in the rear to wake us up. Like when I used to walk on a country road when I lived in the country in Florida, I'd be walking along and all of a sudden I'd freeze. And I looked down, I didn't know why I froze, and there would be a rattlesnake there. I said, wow, how fortuitous is that? What kind of force is this? And I've had a lot of psychic experiences. I used to spook some of my friends out when I was younger. I'd mention somebody that I hadn't seen in years to a friend of mine, and a minute later they would start walking around the corner and we'd both look at each other and go, well, that was weird, or the phone would ring. Had many examples. So anyways, the electronic side of psychotronics used by governments for mind control devices and related weapon systems mimics these field effects. So no matter what you want to say, there's plenty of research to indicate that absolutely the governments are in control and are preparing for something and are mind controlling and doing things in our reality that affects how we behave, our responses. Even with that bombing in England the other day, all the people who had nothing to do with it in the crowds, all of them had to line up and put their arms behind their heads and walk in a straight line. They're seeing if everybody will comply. Will anybody? What if somebody said, "No, I didn't do anything. I don't want to do that." Would these people just shoot them? Boston bombing, they did that. The hurricane down there in New Orleans, they did that. The Jade Helm 15. So they are kind of really mapping out our behavior and our response. And apparently whatever they do, people will, you know, maybe if they cause a plague or economic collapse or whatever, and they roll up with the FEMA buses and they say, "Hey, hop on the bus. We got food and water for you." I suspect, like in Germany and elsewhere in the world, once you get in one of those camps, you're never coming back out. A shadow reality that overlays our own, that is composed of biophysical fields, which would enable psychic phenomena, since these are a function of this quantum reality. I got one more paragraph I want to read here because I'm going to make another video giving a little bit of, I guess, classroom training on how to arrest your brain waves so that you can relax, and a couple techniques that I've been practicing with on being able to see through my mind's eye or remote view. I haven't succeeded. But I can tell it does have an effect on your body. It's springtime and I've been going to the pool and doing some hiking and jogging, getting in more physical shape, which I probably will help with these activities if I want to try to learn how to remote view or use my psychic abilities. So I'm going to read a paragraph here, or just a short thing. Learning remote viewing. Projection of awareness outside one's body has, up until now, been a subjective phenomenon. With an understanding of the nature of remote viewing, a scientific rationale that explains this phenomena allows one to make predictions as to how the remote viewing biophysical field should behave. It also gives pointers on how to optimize the remote view effect to train novices more quickly. So they can, you read this book or other books or watch YouTube videos, you take some notes and practice and do the exercises, you might be surprised. And, in fact, and again, I just don't like it that all the witchcraft organizations, Illuminati, Zionist, world leaders, the elite secret societies, have their initiates who are initiated into the illumination, the Illuminati, Freemasonry, Rosicrucian, all kinds of organizations. They have to swear on a Bible or whatever book under threat of death not to divulge the secrets. And of course, the banksters, Illuminati, Zionist types took over the USA money supply in 1913, the Federal Reserve they created. And they've crashed the system 8 or 9 times, and they're just fleecing monies from the United States. And apparently umpteen numbers of billions of dollars every year goes to Israel. They control the USA and apparently the world, in cahoots with these secret societies and Illuminati and other peoples. And a lot of good Jewish people have written books exposing all this. I've made videos on all this stuff. So again, knowledge might be power, and that's why I made this video on this topic today. And I'll be doing more on this stuff, believe me. It also gives pointers on how to optimize the remote viewing effect to train novices more quickly and effectively than was thought possible. In this book, I will show you how to self-program your biological hardware, your brain, to enable remote viewing. To do this, you must debug the memes, the programming in your head, your normal habits that you have acquired since birth. It is also possible to upgrade this BIOS software so that you can achieve your full potential with respect to remote viewing abilities. To this end, the various tools that you will need to interface with your biophysical vehicle need to be elucidated so that remote viewing capability becomes possible. A thorough understanding of the biophysical field that acts as a conduit for the remote viewing information is also needed so that the reader can become aware of the other quantum reality, which modern man has blinded himself to. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I mentioned rickmiracle.com, my website. On the top right is a PayPal donation thing. If you click it, just it says what you want to buy, item. Just put in donate and then the dollar amount, credit card or PayPal. But yeah, I need some assistance to continue to keep going forward. And I've never made $1 off of YouTube for the views I get and stuff like that. I don't mind people downloading my videos, making CDs and handing them out, or having a party and watching this stuff. But help contribute to the cause if you will, if you can. rickmiracle.com on the right hand side. And thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle Reporting.